Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight? Do you feel like you're constantly starting over with your nutrition and fitness? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse, and I too have been there. At the age of 44, I decided I was done with being stuck in the vicious diet cycle. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best Formula for women who are ready to do things differently. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, get your energy back, build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good, then you're in the right place. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's build your formula for feeling your best. Hello, welcome back to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. I am Lil, of course, and I'm so excited to dive into part 2 of our series where we talk about navigating the busy holiday season, this season where we are often in situations where we end up eating more than we like, having a lot of heavy, calorie dense sweets and food choices, and just, you know what? The holiday season, as they say, it's extra. It is a very extra time of year when there's just extra everything. And that can include stress, that can include sleeping a little bit less, but also there's so much happiness and connection and joy that can happen during this time. We might be experiencing feelings of grief and loss and memories of people that we used to share this time with. So it's a very individualized experience for each and every one of us. And we're all going to move through it in our own unique and special way, no matter, what religion or background or culture you're part of. This is going to be just a very special time of year because even if your culture or religion doesn't celebrate, I'm sure you have friends and family who are inviting you to things and encouraging you to celebrate with them. And this probably is putting you in the position of having very different food choices than you have the other 9 or 10 months out of the year. So, what we're going to talk about today is strategies around food. We're going to have an honest conversation because that's where solutions start, with honesty, being truthful about what is really happening in part 1. If you haven't listened to that, I do suggest you go back to last week's episode where we just talk about the reality of there's a good chance you're going to gain body fat during these 2 months if you kind of just mindlessly, do the holiday season thing and you end up overeating, maybe not moving as much, and your body just holds on to fat because that's what it does based on the habits and what the choices that you're making, the impact that that is having on your body's metabolism. So today, we're going to focus on food strategies. And I have another episode about it's pretty far back. I'll have to think to myself, I should have written this down before I started recording, but I have an episode all about vacations and how to handle vacations and what that can look like. Because again, diet culture in the fitness industry tends to overcomplicate the whole vacation thing, making us feel like, oh, we cannot start healthy habits if we're going to be going on vacation soon, or when we go on vacation, it has to be either an all or nothing thing where we're all in with our dieting or we're all out. And in that episode, I do talk about the fact that no matter where you go, there you are. And a big part of building a healthy lifestyle in changing your relationship with food, building a better relationship with your body and the scale, it doesn't actually have a whole lot to do with dieting or losing weight or gaining weight. It really just has to do with you deciding who you are and what your priorities are in life. Because once you get that figured out, then number one, those habits and priorities come with you no matter where you go. Or the other piece of that is that you're so confident about who you are that you understand a few days or even a week or two off of that normal routine, the habits that you have, the identity that you have for yourself as someone who works out and eats a certain way, you understand that a week's vacation, it is no big deal. You can choose to work out and continue a lot of your habits if you want to on vacation, but also if you want to go on vacation and just like take a break from things, and that's okay. But that episode goes more in depth. And since I didn't do a good job before I got on here figuring out which episode it is, I'll make sure in the episode details to point you towards that episode if that's something you want to learn more about. But I was thinking to myself as I was prepping for today's episode that holidays and vacation are often kind of talked about in the same terms. We kind of have similar feelings and emotions around feeling like we should or should not be dieting, shame, guilt around our food choices during the holidays, similar to when we are on vacation. So the two kind of go hand in hand. But we're going to talk about things in a bit of a different way today. So I would encourage you to listen to my episode on vacationing and this one because it's not going to be redundant. But ultimately, that foundational understanding that you get to decide who you are, the type of person you are, and you're going to be that person, in the month of December, the same as you are in the month of June. And the problem with diet culture is that it doesn't allow us to really create that identity for ourselves. And instead, we put labels on, oh, I'm dieting right now, or nope, I'm off the wagon right now, instead of just creating this consistent version of ourselves where we just know who we are, what we want our life to look like, and how our choices today impact our life tomorrow. And to me, this is the biggest shift that I work on with my clients because we're coming off of decades of this idea that we should always be on a diet, and if we're not on a diet, then we don't really know what to do. And then we experience all the shame and guilt around the food choices that we make. So I'm here to try to help you get out of that way of thinking, especially when it comes to the holidays. So let's talk about these actual strategies. And I want to start with this concept of a weekly planning session. I I love mine. I look forward to mine. Sometimes it's Wednesday and I'm already excited and thinking, "Oh, I can't wait for Friday because I want to do this planning and I have this idea of this new thing I want to do the next week." And I get so excited on Friday to actually put it in the calendar and have this, whole thought process of, "Oh, I can't wait to start this new project and bring this idea to life." And if you're not doing some sort of weekly planning session, I highly recommend that you start. It just creates this snowball effect of being more organized and really working towards a goal where you know what your long-term goal is. Well, this week, these are the things I'm doing to move me in that direction, whether it's with your nutrition, your fitness, or it could be financial goals, it could be relationship goals, whatever that is. You got to do something on a consistent basis to actually move the needle and move you in that direction. So during your weekly planning sessions in the holiday season, it's going to be really helpful for you to look at your calendar and say, "Oh, I have this special dinner this night. We have this event, in my town center that night. I know there's going to be cookies and hot cocoa," and, kind of looking at anything that's on your calendar and asking yourself, okay, is there a food choice that I'm going to be faced with? And what is my choice going to be? Can I sort of mentally prepare for what that is going to look like? So you just have an idea of the lay of the land rather than kind of just doing things off the cuff and sort of being surprised or unprepared every time you have to make a decision on what your habits are. And, when you're looking at that calendar and you're seeing in your week that you have a lot of stuff going on, number one, it's going to help you prepare better and things might look different. You might not be making dinner as many times, or you have these other, habits and routines that are just going to be a little off. And maybe this is a time for you to really lean into things like having frozen meals planned. It's totally fine to have frozen pizza and a bagged Caesar salad, or grabbing a rotisserie chicken, all of these foods that are really convenient, but also work really well for, fueling your body and staying within your calorie range and feeling good about how the food choices that you're making. There are plenty of convenient, simple, easy ways to do this. So, this is probably not the time to be making complicated recipes. Um, that are going to require a lot of effort unless you're specifically making something for an event that you're going to. This is the time to lean into the things that make your life easier. Maybe that's ordering your groceries, maybe that's having your healthier takeout options. Whatever that looks like, if you can look at the week ahead and be as flexible as possible with your meals, keep your meals as simple as possible, and then also have an idea of how these external events, social events, things that are maybe not in your control, how are those going to impact your overall health? Because are you going to be faced with food choices that are, possibly going to impact your health in the long term by causing you to gain fat? Like, if you're having 3 or 4 events in one week and you're overeating at every single event, then yeah, there's a chance that that week you could actually be gaining an extra pound of body fat, which then compounds over time, like we talked about on last week's episode. So, starting off by just getting an idea of what your week looks like. And you may even want to do this on, looking ahead 3 or 4 weeks to just kind of get an idea of what things look like so that you can plan, if you can plan ahead to maybe make some turkey meatballs and put those in the freezer. And like I said, just have a plan for flexible, quick and easy and healthy meals. That's really going to pay off in the moment, because sometimes we think we're going to have all this time and energy. And then when it comes down to the reality of cooking, we just don't want anything to do with it. And the next thing we're ordering the takeout. So being as planned as possible. Um, Number two, let's talk about the indulgences and the things that we love about the holidays. I suggest this to my clients and I'm suggesting it to you, but get really honest about what is, and I'm going to say hashtag worth it, Um, for me, there are certain holiday foods that I really, really enjoy. I'm not a huge appetizer person. That I'm happy with veggies and dip, chips and dip, salsa and chips, veggies and dip, things like that. But I'm not someone that really goes overboard. I'm perfectly happy to have some shrimp cocktail and some veggies and dip. Um, but someone else might go crazy with the chips and French onion dip. Like that just might be their thing where they just have no self control. And also, it might be the thing that they just feel is like really worth it to them because, again, this is going to be a calorie dense, low nutrient food choice. And maybe for them, this is the only time of year that they have this one particular appetizer, like the chips and dip. And they just feel like, hey, I want to just enjoy this one day. And I'm not doing this every day. And this is the part of the meal that I really want to just allow myself to eat as much as I want. I am a dessert person. I actually don't like the meal itself. I don't love a lot of like I don't love roasted turkey. Like I don't go crazy for that. I don't really like ham at all. I would definitely enjoy more of a beef tenderloin or roast or something like that. But the meal itself, I personally am not someone that goes crazy with gravy and things like that. And I love veggies. So for me, again, the meal is not something, sometimes you'll see people and their plate is piled 5 inches high with everything mashed potatoes and casseroles and all that kind of stuff. For me, that's not really where, again, I go overboard. My problem, and I've talked about it on here, is that I have a huge sweet tooth. I love sweets. I love candy. I love ice cream. I love cake. I love cookies, all of those things. But even when it comes to dessert, I have things that are hashtag worth it for me versus other things. Now, I do not enjoy cheesecake. I never have. It's not my thing. I am not gonna eat cheesecake unless, maybe if someone makes something really special, I'll take a small piece and have a bite just so I can show my appreciation for the effort that they put in. Um, but if someone brings really nice cupcakes or my niece makes these delicious cream puffs, profiteroles, and they're just amazing and she's an excellent baker. She also makes these snickerdoodle cookies that I love. She's the baker in the family that I really go crazy for pretty much anything she makes. Then those are the things I'm going to consume and I'm not gonna like care if I have, three profiteroles and three cookies in one sitting, and I'm not gonna beat myself up about it because it's so good and it's so delicious. And when I'm eating it, I'm appreciating my family and thinking of where I am. And it's more than just the food. But if there's other desserts there, like say cheesecake or certain pies and things like that, those, you know, I would eat them maybe in certain circumstances, but I'm choosing, this particular dessert is just something that really brings me joy. Um, and there's an emotional aspect to it that I just want to feel right now. Whereas eating something else, if someone had a bunch of Snickers bars sitting there, do I like Snickers bars? Do I have one occasionally? Sure. I might have one every couple of years or something like that. But I'm not grabbing a Snickers bar every time I go through the grocery line because it's just not that high quality. It's not that enjoyable. But if someone has those Lindt chocolate balls, those are amazing. And there's certain ones, I love the mint ones. I'm going to have one of those because it's worth it to me. But I'm not going to be shoveling Hostess cupcakes um, or other low quality desserts, in my face. I'm not going to be eating like a garbage can just because it's there. And this, thought process where number one, we're not calling all, there's no good foods, there's no bad foods, but there's the foods that we genuinely enjoy and look forward to, and we're not eating them every single day, but they elevate our experience in the time that we are with people. So kind of having a hierarchy in your mind of, okay, if you love apple pie and there's going to be warm apple pie with some French vanilla ice cream, and that is just something that's really comforting and brings you great memories and is enjoyable, um, then go for it. That's the thing that you want. But if you're like me and you don't like cheesecake, then don't have the cheesecake. And ask yourself why you're eating it. Are you just eating it to, you know, fill a hole and looking at it as this opportunity? Like if you're always looking for opportunities to just eat and eat and eat, then that's indicative of a poor relationship with food. And I'm saying this as someone who used to be like that, where I was so restrictive all the time that when I did get an opportunity where it was like, oh no, I can't say no to all this food. This is an excuse for me to just eat anything and everything. And I would do that. And then, of course, would come the shame and the guilt. And hello, that's a huge warning bell that there's disordered eating going on and you have a lousy relationship with food. Perfectly healthy to enjoy your favorite foods with the people you love and not even think about dieting or anything like that. On an actual holiday, I don't think you should be tracking your food. I don't think you should be thinking about anything other than being with the people that you love and making those memories. And if there's any talk about dieting or any of that, I encourage you to shut it down and leave that for another day, because that is not something that should be part of your holiday memories. Talking about dieting, feeling guilty about foods, saying, oh, I'm going to have to run however many miles tomorrow because look at what I ate today. Like, that's not how it works. And it's just putting the emphasis on the wrong things. Um, all right, so we're deciding what's worth it. Okay, you know that we're going to have to talk about alcohol here and being honest about alcohol consumption. Again, this is where your hashtag worth it stuff might come in. I rarely drink. I honestly, I'm not sure. I'm sitting here right now just asking myself, when was the last time I had a drink? Oh, I went to a candle making event with my sister-in-laws last week, and I had like half of a seltzer because my sister-in-law is actually friends with the owners of the brewery that we are at, and I don't really like beer. And so I got one of the brewery's seltzers and I had half of it. It was fine. I didn't love it. I don't think I would get it again. Um, but that's like pretty much probably all the alcohol I've had in the past 3 months was half a seltzer. And as you start moving away from, having alcohol on a consistent basis, I personally miss it less and less. And I don't feel awkward saying that I'm not having a drink. It is not something that I even really think about because my identity at this point in my life is that I am someone who doesn't drink. And if I do, it's very thoughtful and it's something that I'm going to enjoy. It is going to be, again, hashtag worth it. But if you are just throwing back glass after glass of wine, beer after beer, and just kind of mindlessly drinking, if once you get mindful about it and you realize you're probably over consuming maybe 1,000 calories, maybe 1,500 calories, maybe 200, sorry, maybe 2,000 calories of literally empty calories, um, is that who you want to be? Is that, how you want to feel? Is that leading you to making food choices that you feel good about? We talk about this all the time. I'm not going to harp on it, but the more you drink, the more harmful it is to you. Now, study after study after study is coming out saying there is zero physical benefit, there's no health benefit to red wine. We can't be using that excuse anymore. And the older I personally get, the more I know, the less I want to be consuming foods that are directly linked to cancer and harmful effects on my body. So think about the alcohol. Decide, am I someone who drinks? Am I someone who doesn't drink? And what types of decisions am I going to be making in these various situations? I know there are people who push food on us, there are people who push alcohol on us. And I would say anyone who cares more about you and your choices than they do about their own, that's not about you. That's about them. That's about them trying to justify their food choices, their drink choices, and they're trying to bring you into it so that they can feel better about their choices. So recognize that you can be whoever you want. And if anyone is offended by your decision, then they don't really care about you and your needs. And maybe that isn't someone that really cares about you as much as you think they do. So be honest about the alcohol. Be, mindful of the fact that it's empty calories and that it could be very much contributing to the fat gain that you don't want in your life. So I kind of talked about this already, but I just want you to remember that one huge strategy in life, this isn't just in this type of situation, but always remember that no is a complete answer. And number one, if you're being invited to things that make you anxious and you don't want to go to them, and it's going to be spending time with people that don't respect you, that don't bring you joy, that you don't look forward to spending time with, totally okay to say no, totally okay to not invite people to your home. I'm speaking this as someone who practices this, where I'm very mindful about who I allow into my home, who I allow around my children. And it can start there with who you even decide to spend time with during the holidays, because I think, especially in very traditional families, there's a lot of pressure of this is the way we've always done it. And we know that Aunt Sally is super toxic and, nobody likes her, but we got to invite her because that's the way things are. I don't know. It's 2024. We are all a lot more mindful of the impact that relationships have in our lives. If someone is super toxic and you don't want that person around your children, you do not have to invite them into your home. So I'm encouraging you to empower yourself, to not put yourself in positions where then you're going to find yourself mindlessly in the chips and dip and, downing that wine because that family member is a total a-hole and they're pissing you off and you're trying to just escape through eating and drinking. So sometimes it can start there with the no, but also the no can be no, I'm not drinking. No, I'm eating this food, not that food. If someone makes something really special and it's not something that you think you're going to enjoy, you could just take a piece and just have a tiny bite. So what? Like people can't be offended, by you making a personal decision about the food that you're eating and the drinks that you're drinking. Another strategy that can be really helpful, and I think this is helpful in those situations, like I said, if you're going to a tree lighting ceremony or a menorah lighting ceremony, my town has these types of things, throughout December where you can go, and we have a very quaint New England town and we have lighting, putting the Christmas lights up. And then we also have a menorah where each night of Hanukkah, the candles are lit. And these are fun activities, and they do like a little Christmas market, holiday market along with it. So this is where you're going to have these situations where there might be cookies and hot cocoa and candy and stuff like that. And for those types of situations, just make sure you fill up on a dinner that is nutritious and where you're not going to be tempted to eat, 4 cookies and have a huge thing of hot chocolate. And maybe you just have a hot chocolate or you just have a cookie, but you're not ravenous and you've made choices that have you full and satisfied before you enter that type of situation. If you're going to a kid's party or something of that nature. I mean, there's just so many different things. I can't even list them all. But if it's that type of thing where you just know there's going to be like little odds and ends, then eat a nice, robust, filling meal of, the foods that you normally eat so that you're not going to be tempted, you're not going to be starving, and it's just not going to be that big a deal if it's a smaller event like that. And you can even do that for larger events. I mean, I know, you're full and satisfied where you've had a meal that has, veggies, protein, high fiber, and it's just the typical meal that you're typically eating, and you get really full and satisfied. And maybe you're going out to a play or the ballet or something like that. And you're just going to be less tempted to partake in all these little things that can add up while you're out. You could even do that if you're going to, say, a holiday meal at someone's home where it's just going to be full of, high fat, high calorie, sugar laden foods. You can always fill up on the more typical foods at home and then just have very small portions when you go wherever it is that, your food choices are going to be very out of alignment with how you normally eat. Similarly, if you're going somewhere and say, maybe your family does the 7 fishes and you just know there's going to be a lot of excess, maybe you can offer to bring one of the dishes, and it can be something where it isn't, soaked in butter and oil and all kinds of things. It can be a little bit lighter. Maybe you can bring veggies and dip. I know a salad, like a Brussels sprout salad, is often something that's very popular at holiday meals where maybe you're doing a potluck style. But whatever you're doing, see if maybe you can offer to bring something that is a great option that you can eat along with the other items, but that yours maybe is heavy on the veggies or otherwise sort of matches the way that you prefer to eat on a regular basis. Okay, we're getting towards the end of our ideas here, but if you don't know already, one strategy for not overdoing things and having a more balanced meal is just to use your plate as a guide and try to have half of your plate be vegetables. Again, hopefully with not like tons of cheese or dressing or anything like that, but half your plate veggies. And then a quarter of your plate protein and a quarter of your plate carbs. That can be a way to just make sure that you're filling up on the veggies and then, not over consuming a ton of high calorie foods that, again, are not going to make you feel so great. And then ultimately, my biggest advice, my biggest, strategy for you is for you to get to know yourself and for you to start making decisions of like, what is your identity? What is, who are you as a person when it comes to the foods that you consume and the choices that you make? And I know plenty of people where it is their identity, that they're often overeating and having very elaborate meals and over consuming and just really obsessed with food and eating a lot. And if that is you, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with enjoying food and being a foodie. I consider, myself to be a foodie. I love trying new things. There's a very, 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 very short list of foods that I don't like. It's like cheesecake and peas. I'm not even sure what else would be on the list for me. I love food, but I also love my body. I love being healthy. I love being mobile. I love not being a burden on other people. I don't want to be a burden on my children. And I'm fully aware, don't come at me and say, I'm being an ableist or something like that. I understand that things happen. I've had issues myself with my back, with having my broken ankle, where yes, people had to help me. I'm not saying that. Ish happens. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we have to be cared for. But I'm saying the things that we can control, and you can control how you move your body. You can control the foods that you purchase at the grocery store. You can control the foods that you order when you go out to eat. Like, you're an adult. These are decisions that you're making for yourself. You're not a child. There's not someone else making those decisions for you. And you got to be honest about how are those decisions that you're making today, how are those affecting your life 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because every choice that we make today has a consequence tomorrow. And day after day after day, that is the ripple effect. It is how it works. And I'm sorry that there's, yes, are there things we can do about it? Of course, you can go get on a GLP-1 and, help yourself to eliminate hunger and things like that. And I do feel that those medications are applicable to certain people. But right now it's being given out like candy. I'm actually very concerned to see what the fallout is going to be from that as far as disordered eating. And yeah, I have a lot to say on that subject. I won't get into it right now, but I'm just saying ultimately get to know yourself and decide who you want to be. How do you want your kids to look at you? Do you want them to think to themselves, oh, there's mom with her holiday plate of food, and it's just, now she's going back again, and them watching you just overeat and overeat, and then them mimicking that and feeling like that is how they want to eat, and just not really having any sort of boundaries with that. It's a personal decision. We all come to today with, the experiences that we've had throughout our life. But at some point, we are all forced to look at the consequences of our choices. And the choices that we make during the holiday season have been proven to impact our overall health by often causing us to gain excess body fat that we never get rid of. So I hope that the conversation that we're having here on the podcast is something you can take with you and be thoughtful about and approach this year a little bit differently. Next week, we're going to talk about fitness and being active and creating a routine that works for you during the holidays. But today, it's all about food strategies, and I hope you found this helpful. All right, I will be back here next week, and I hope that you're already thinking about things that we talked on here today, and it can help you make a plan that you feel good about as we move forward through the holidays. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you enjoyed the information and discussion we had here today, then make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you're serious about making changes with your nutrition and fitness, then you definitely want to join my weekly newsletter list as well. You can find the link below and more information in the episode details. That's all for today, and we will see you back here next week for a new episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast.